Hi, so I have a question for you. Do you walk on eggshells around people in your life because you're fearing judgment or criticism? Well, if that's you, don't worry, because this is a really common one for us highly sensitive people. But I do promise that there's a way out of that. When it comes to receiving criticism, it's usually one of two things. It either comes in the form of judgment, which basically consists of accusations that are simply not constructive, or it comes in the form of constructive criticism, which, even though sometimes it can make us uncomfortable, it can benefit our growth too. Now, to be surrounded with constant judgment can be toxic, and it's simply not healthy, and it can even come in the form of gaslighting too, where you're being completely invalidated and told that you're too sensitive or you're too anything. And those are not only forms of judgment, but they're forms of manipulation too, whether the gaslighter is aware of that behavior or not. So then there's constructive criticism, and being on the receiving end of that is not uncommon for people to receive that as judgment instead. And what that means is that it's simply a sign that ego is taking over the show. And the problem with this is that it leaves no room to grow. It means that we take things personally and defensively, and where the criticism is in reality not an actual reflection of who we are as people, but in reality it's simply about our performance or our ability to grow, because there's always further to grow. And reality is that we have a choice in every given situation. We can either choose to give in to ego and give in to those shadows of anger, of resentment, of offensiveness, of shame, or we can choose acceptance, peace, joy, growth. And how do we come to that ability to switch that mindset? It really all comes down to increased self-awareness. So I'll just share a part of my story with you, and let me know if you can relate to this. Around 7 years ago, I came across the research of Elaine Aron, who wrote The Highly Sensitive Person. And as I began to discover this, I felt incredibly enlightened and I thought, oh my God, that's me. Hsp'S are simply a place at the far end of the sensitivity spectrum. And if you're highly sensitive, you probably will have also been told many times that you need to build thicker skin or you need to toughen up. And the unfortunate fact is that society isn't always accepting of sensitivity, and it doesn't always value it in the way that it really should. And let me know in the comments if you've heard these things too before. All of these words did for me, being told that I needed to build thicker skin, was that it made me feel completely inadequate and faulty. I just remember asking myself, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to be like everyone else? Reality is these statements are simply not constructive, and again, it's gaslighting behavior, whether they know it or not. So whether you're an HSP or not, being told not to be sensitive is simply not constructive. But the thing with this is that we don't have to make other people's beliefs our own. They have their own set of beliefs and values, but we need to be clear on our own too, so that when we can't become exposed to it, we're less likely to adopt their beliefs as our own. And if we did adopt their beliefs, it causes us to hide, which would be a huge disadvantage not only to ourselves but to the rest of the world, because it ends up depriving the world of our potential and the positive impact that we could have on others, like some of the most famous HSPs, like Leonardo da Vinci, Mozart, Princess Diana, Gandhi, Mother Teresa. If they had all been in hiding all of this time, and the world would have been at a huge disadvantage. There are times when people do give advice or criticize in what they believe to be constructive, and it comes from a good place. However, it's up to us how we choose to perceive it or react to it. Someone close to me told me a few years ago, as I started opening up about high sensitivity, and they said to me, sensitivity doesn't define you, it's something that you should work on. Now, my initial reaction was one of anger, resentment, how could they? And a feeling of being completely misunderstood and invalidated. It just didn't feel nice. But I made a choice. I decided that I can dismiss the part that doesn't align with my beliefs, which is the part that it's something that I should work on, which I do not believe it's something that I should work on changing. It doesn't need changing, it just needs valuing. But then the part I realized that the part that I could interpret as being constructive was that my sensitivity does not define all of me. And it doesn't need to limit me. But it does define an important part of me. And this is the part that I need to not only accept, but value. So I by no means agree that it's something that should be worked on or changed or fixed, but I can work on challenging myself to better understand my personality and how far it can be stretched. And I describe this concept as my rubber band theory, where personalities can be stretched, but only so far. And for me, stretching my personality involved stepping out of my comfort zone, overcoming social anxieties by exposing myself to group situations and training myself to interact. And I improved a lot by stretching this part of myself. But I also recognize that if I expose myself in this way for too long or too often, then I'll end up feeling overstimulated and drained and losing my sense of self. So we need to find balance in this. And we must be brave and act with courage and stretch ourselves and challenge ourselves, but not to the point where we cross that line. So today I'd like to challenge you. The next time that you're on the receiving end of criticism, ask yourself, is it judgment and gaslighting? Because if so, that's toxic and that action needs to be taken. Or am I simply responding from a place of ego, of anger, of resentment, of shame or blame? Because if that's the case, turn it around. The choice really is yours. I'll actually be going a few steps deeper with this in my challenge in October, where I'll be teaching lots of really important tools and exercises to help you switch that mindset. And you'll be able to start on that right away, and you'll see the changes in your life right away. So if you want to join that, it's only £29 right now, but the price does go up on Friday. So if you want to join, be quick and get your ticket now. And if you want to join, the website is www.michelleTheMindsetCoach.com/challenge. The link is in my bio as well. I cannot wait to see you there, guys.